Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we are back on Garageband doing the first episode in a series on how to produce your vocals and how to mix your vocals really well and get them sounding just the way that you want, just on the power of Garageband. So today's video is going to be focused on how to get the correct sound quality that you want on your vocals. Mainly we're going to focus on your channel EQ, but we're also going to be learning how to properly use an exciter as well as a de-esser, because those are all kind of intertwined with making your sound quality sound good. So whether it's making a worse microphone sound better, or just taking even a good microphone and making those vocals just sound better overall, taking that sound quality to the next level, we're going to learn all of that today in this video, just through simple plugins that you have just right on stock GarageBand.
Family functions ain't no friends. Had a line around my M's, turn them into M's. Why you tryna make amends? What's the smell? It's heaven sins. Like I drop shit out the wind, dodging hella sins.
Alright, so that did sound pretty bad, but we're gonna work on making that better. So first things first is we're gonna turn everything off. I'm gonna keep everything off. I'm just gonna keep my channel EQ on and my pitch correction on. The pitch correction wasn't on in what you just heard, but I'm gonna keep it on going forward, just to make my vocals sound better. So our first steps in going to the channel EQ is kind of taking into account what microphone do you have. So depending on your microphone will actually change the channel EQ that you have. Sometimes if you have a more upscale microphone, you don't need as much fine tuning with your, or as much change with your channel EQ. So the microphone that I recorded this on was a Beats Solo 3 HD microphone. So I had to do something like this to get it to sound the way that I wanted. Now this EQ right here should be pretty good for whatever microphone you're using, because it's pretty, I made it pretty standard so that it should fit whatever you're using, and then from there you can fine tune it. So let's get into the specifics of this. So as you can see here, I took a lot of these low ends out because I wanted to get some of those boxy tones out of the way. I didn't raise the bass, because my microphone didn't really need that. Sometimes if you have a very tinny microphone, you want to raise the bass a little bit like this, but I didn't. I actually lowered it, and I cut some of these low ends out to get that out of the way, and to make it a little bit more cleaner and crisper. The next thing that we did was definitely, I suggest lowering your mids a little bit, and it depends on what microphone you have in terms of how much you want to lower your mids, but anywhere between the 400 and 600 mark, you can lower a little bit to get some of that canniness out of the way. Kind of that sound that makes it sound a little bit like a telephone, or some of those mid-range tones that you don't really want. Cut that out, get that right out of the way, which is what what I've done. Now, this is where you can really choose what you want to do. Over here, sometimes I like to raise it up to give my vocals a little more presence, but sometimes I like to lower it to kind of soften it up a little bit. In this case, because of the microphone that I have isn't super good, which I did for a purpose, I lowered it just to kind of soften out the vocals so it's not so harsh. And over here, to get a little bit of that crispiness, I raised it just a hair, but then again, I lowered it over here because this is the super harsh crispiness that kind of hurts the ears a little bit. So you want to make sure to get those out of the way, and sometimes you don't have to do that, or sometimes you want to do it more. But for now, I did that just a little bit like that. So that's essentially your kind of baseline for your vocals, and you can kind of adjust it however else you want. So let's hear what that sounds like with the EQ on now.
Family functions ain't no friends. Had a line around my M's, turn them into M's. Why you tryna make amends? What's the smell? It's heaven sins. Like I drop shit out the wind, dodging hella sins.
So as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit better. There's no compressor or anything on, so it still sounds pretty bad, but you can kind of hear that sound quality start to change a little bit. So I want to get a little bit more crispy with the sound without making it harsh. So how am I going to do that? Well, you're going to use something called an exciter. So to get your exciter, you're going to click this right here. You're going to scroll down here. You're going to go to specialized, and you're going to go to exciter. So my exciter has popped up right here. I already had it here, so I didn't add it again. And when you bring it up, it's going to bring you two sliders that do two separate things. The first thing is your harmonics, and I like to keep that at 200% to give a nice clean stereo image and kind of spread out the sound all the way. The next thing is your frequency. I like to keep my frequency at around 15,900. If it's all the way, you're not going to hear the exciter that much because it's kind of covering all of the sound. Whereas if you make it over around 6,000 or so, it's going to be very harsh because you're really increasing the presence at those ranges, and it's going to get that kind of very like crispy, punchy sound that's very harsh with the S's on the ears that you don't really want to hear. So if you want that, you could go for that, but for me personally, to get some really nice vocals, I like to keep it around 14,000 to about 18,000. So I'm going to go 15,900. Alright, so that's it for your exciter. And the next thing that I'm going to do is go to my de-esser. So to find your de-esser, you're going to click this bottom line right here, and you're going to go into dynamics and click de-esser. So once you have your de-esser, it's going to pop up. I already have it added, and you're going to have your suppression frequency and your suppression. So these two separate things are also important to make note of. Your suppression is essentially how loud or how much your suppression is going to have an effect on. If you don't have it that much, it's not going to have that much of an effect. If you have it all the way here, it's going to really suppress those high things a lot more. See, it's going to bring it to a much lower decibel range. Or you can keep it here and it's not going to affect it as much. So essentially, the more farther you go right, the more suppression you're going to get. So I like to keep it at a pretty high mark. I'd say about 17. And then on top of that, I like to keep my suppression frequency also really high. Because if you have it over here, it's not going to affect it as much. Because your S's tend to be very high frequencies. Like when you say S, it's at a very high frequency. Now if you put that at the 500 hertz, that's not going to cover those S's. So if you keep it kind of high over here, you're going to make it essentially cover all those high frequency sounds that you're trying to get rid of. And then on top of that, your suppression will suppress those. So you want to keep those two around those right there, like that. Alright, so once you have all three of those, you're going to get your exciter, your de-esser, and your channel EQ. And if you kind of get those similar settings and work it to how you want it to sound, it should sound something like this. We can see how our sound quality has improved.
Family functions ain't no friends. Had a line around my M's, turn them into M's. Why you tryna make amends? What's the smell? It's heaven sins. Like I drop shit out the wind, dodging Ellisons.
Alright guys, that definitely did sound a little bit better, but we have a long ways to go to get it sounding the way that we want. So Alright guys, so that is definitely sounding a little bit better, but we still have a long ways to go in getting the sound quality that we want in our final product. So this is just the beginning steps to that. So stay tuned for more videos in the series on how to produce vocals and kind of how to get your vocals sounding really, really good just the way that you want. And as always, leave a like, drop a comment, any suggestions for new videos, and hit that subscribe button. And as always, have a great day guys. Peace.